Hello everyone. We need to talk about the events that took place on Sunday in Quebec City. Initially, I was going to throw together a proper, objective report on what happened, but the rest of the media has already basically filled that role. If you want an unopinionated overview, there is plenty to be found. As for me, I think this story merits some editorializing. So let's get into it. On August 20th, 2017, a group known as La Meute, or the Pack in English, had planned to hold a rally against illegal immigration. Quebec has recently seen an upsurge of asylum seekers flowing across the border in response to fears of deportation under the Trump administration. That was the specific purpose of their intended rally on Sunday. That being said, the group is known to hold far-right political views regarding Islam and immigration. One man associated with La Meute had even attended the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. According to left-wing counter-demonstrators, this indicated that La Meute was not as moderate as they claim, and that they harbor white supremacists, white nationalists, and neo-Nazis within their ranks. However, a spokesman for the group suspended the Charlottesville attendee's membership pending an investigation into his rally attendance. Clearly, this is an effort to distance themselves from the fascistic elements that attended the deadly rally in Virginia. It's hard to know exactly who is who. Much of the media and folks on the political left smack the far-right label on any individual or group that calls for more restrictive immigration policies. By the current standard, La Meute is indeed a far-right group. So, how common are their views among Canadians? The National Post reported in February that Canadians are split on the issue of immigration and refugees. Citing a study from the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada, they lay out the numbers clearly for all to see. On the question of whether or not Canada should accept immigrants from poor countries, the vast majority of Canadians take a moderate view. About 36% want to allow few. About 44% want to allow some. This means that 80% of Canadians are in favor of at least some regulation and restriction regarding immigration. Only about 8% want to allow none, and only about 12% want to allow many. There are some other charts here, one regarding refugees, which shows that Canadians are pretty generous on this question, but there's still a fair bit of agnosticism. So, do these general views that Canadians appear to hold represent what La Meute represents? Personally, I have not spent any time around the group. I can't give a full and accurate overview of who exactly they attract. However, the fact that one member attended the white nationalist rally in Charlottesville proves that this group does indeed harbor some on the very far right fringe. Even if the group has tried to distance themselves from that rally, it is clear that they have the potential to attract the most radical. But regarding the specific demonstration that was planned for August 20th against illegal immigration, I believe that according to these polls, there is not an insignificant amount of support among average Canadians for their specific cause that day. Again, regarding the rest of the group's actions and beliefs, I am no expert, and there is proof that some hold truly far-right beliefs. Opposing a violent and fascistic far-right is one thing, but a problem emerges when folks on the political left, or anyone, begins to cast too wide a net. The far left believes in open borders. Therefore, anyone who is in favor of some border restriction and regulation could be considered far-right, according to some people. Once a person has been labeled far-right, they are effectively dehumanized, and people begin to justify violence against them. The threat of generalizing average right-wingers as neo-Nazis is real, and it's dangerous. To demonstrate what someone who may be sympathetic with La Meute thinks, here is some footage I captured of a man who did not want to give his name, who got into an altercation with some of the counter-demonstrators. This is what happened, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, you mom.
That's a scum.
She's a fucking fascist on her side.
I need the banner back. I need the banner back.
No, I don't want to. What's the safest way? You might follow me.
Peacefully. I just want our side back. On veut juste la hotel. Peace.
Peaceful now, eh?
Just give it to
Peaceful
me.
now.
Thanks, man.
Don't come back. Yeah, okay.
So what exactly just happened?
Oh, I don't know. I saw them pushing around a single woman. So I go stand in the way. You know, I don't like to see that. And all of a sudden, yeah, I'm called a Nazi and I'm slandered and pushed and assaulted, I guess. I don't know. It was no big deal.
So politically, do you actually like stand somewhere between these two
I don't know.
groups?
I'm just trying to make up my mind. I'm visiting both sides, you know. I talked to a girl over there for 20 minutes. I thought I'd come see where the other guys are. I haven't found them yet. Do you know where they are?
They're inside some basement.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go talk to them. Who knows? Maybe they'll convince me. I've got an open mind.
Why are you trying to listen? I'm from the Machugas and my name's Claire.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to, experience both sides? Are you just trying to fully understand the debate or like choose a side?
Do you want to define what the sides are? I'm not sure.
Okay, you're just trying to find out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, one side would be sort of like, critical of Islam and immigration, and the other side is a little bit more like
Okay.
against
Well,
that.
I would say I'm for a reasonable immigration policy, right? Not an extremist one. And there are extremist immigration policies. Okay. What would be an extremist? Turning one group into a minority with immigration. That would be extreme, right? If you went to Japan and said we're going to import enough Chinese to make you guys a minority, that would be extreme, okay? Especially when, as I am turning into a minority, I'm also being despised and scapegoated increasingly. It's a very uncomfortable position.
What do you mean turn into a minority?
I'm a white man. I'm Christian. I speak English. I don't know. I'm a Nazi apparently. I don't know. I can't figure these guys out.
So reasonable immigration
I don't
policy
consider
is-
myself a neo-fascist or any of that sort. Yeah. What do you guys guys work for?
Montreal News and News Indeed.
Is that? I don't really want to give you my name.
Okay, no.
I don't mind being on the TV.
So what do you think about the idea that perhaps the rhetoric of La Meute could lead to people like Bissonnette going on, violent sprees? What do you think about that?
Who knows? Well, who knows what happened with Bissonnette? It's a closed trial. The public's not getting any information about that. You know what I mean? Yeah, obviously things shouldn't come to that.
Well, what do you think happened there then?
Okay, I think any violence pertaining to immigrants, whether they be the perpetrators or the victims, is the cause of immigration itself. Does that make sense?
What do you mean?
Well, if there weren't any immigrants, we wouldn't be having these problems. These tensions are coming about in our society because we're trying to push all these groups together, right? We're not all one people. We're not all one group. I can't even fucking stand next to these people, okay? At least if I go over to the neo-Nazi rally, I won't be assaulted. Okay, I guess I feel safer with those guys.
And what do you say to, Muslim people who might feel unsafe around?
Well, I don't know why they would feel unsafe. Our civic spaces are still safe. I don't know for how much longer though, right? But no, I don't really sympathize with the Muslims. Okay, I put myself first. If it's me or the Muslims, I'm gonna say me. You know what I mean?
Any final thoughts?
No, not really. But if you're gonna quote me, I would like you to quote that one part where I said, if there's any violence pertaining to immigration, then it's immigration itself that's the problem, not the immigrants or the natives. Okay? Does that make sense? A little bit?
All right.
We wouldn't be having this problem if we didn't have mass immigration in this country. I come from Toronto. You're Quebecer?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not a minority in your city yet. You might be. You might not even. You might be speaking English all the time in the future. How would you like that? You could become a lingual minority, a religious minority, a racial minority. I'm not for that. That's not what my grandfathers wanted for my country.
Regardless of what you think of this man's opinions, it appears to me to be a counterproductive tactic to use violence and intimidation. As he said, he gravitates towards La Meute partly because of how he is treated by the far left. And of course, he has some right-wing opinions as well. But his views will not be changed through violence. The more groups like Antifa and Black Bloc use these tactics, the more folks like him will gravitate towards the other side, causing increasing polarization. What the world witnessed in Charlottesville was nothing short of sickening. It shows that there are indeed, truly fascistic, violent elements on the far right. In America, right-wing terrorism surpasses both left-wing and Islamist violence. It's important to remember that. But it's also important to remember that not all right-wingers are fascists. Not all right-wingers should be targets of violence. Unfortunately, there are some elements on the far left that seem to disagree. We'll get to some more footage demonstrating this a little later on. Now, let's talk about the left-wing side of this event. Groups from both Montreal and Quebec City were present at the counter-demonstration. Their stated goal was to oppose racism, Islamophobia, and anti-immigrant sentiment, to oppose what they view as fascistic politics. Here is some interview footage of one of the primary organizers, Jaggi Singh, who is a very prominent Canadian activist and a member of Solidarity Across Borders.
Less than 7 months after the St. Croix mosque attack, less than 7 months after that attack, in the exact same city, a group called La Meute that helped create a climate of fear and hatred against Muslims is attempting to demonstrate. This group is blaming migrants and immigrants and other precarious people for all of society's problems. You don't fight poverty and you don't fight precarity by blaming other people who are precarious and poor. That's the lesson of history. So we're here to stand our ground. This is in solidarity with demonstrations all over, but particularly Boston and Vancouver yesterday, Charlottesville last week. We're here to stand as a movement against racism, against homophobia, against transphobia, in solidarity with all who are being attacked by groups like La Meute.
They say they have a right to express their opinions. They say they're not outside of, the law. They are, they claim to be not anti-immigrant, but anti-illegal immigration. Not anti-immigrant, but anti-multicultural. They want to make it Canadian.
those are the code words used by racists today to have good public relations. Keep in mind that a high-level member of La Meute, as reported in the mainstream media, was in Charlottesville hugging neo-Nazis and participating in that demonstration. That's a high-level member responsible for recruitment. So of course, everybody who's a racist except the real hardcore will never admit they're racist. They talk about it in code words like illegal immigration, like Muslims. Well, let's stop that. Like, we need to start we need to create a whole new parameter of where we start these discussions, and we don't start them from a racist starting point.
So, are they not going to be allowed to march? Is that what you're doing here? Or are you going to say
I will say quite openly that the goal is to make sure that can happen. Whether that will or will not happen, we'll see. We have large numbers. There are hundreds of people at Place du Ville right now, where the other demonstration was starting. We're a group from Montreal, but we've been joined by people from Quebec City and elsewhere. We have to stand our ground. That's a lesson of history. I take those lessons really, really seriously.
And what's your group called? What do you call it?
I'm a member of Solidarity Cross Borders. Yeah.
Great. Very good talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, Jaggy,
Hey,
what do you think about like the increasingly polarized like political situation that we have here? Where do you think it's leading all this stuff? After
I don't know
Charlottesville,
if it's
now?
increasingly polarized. I think certain groups have been getting more attention, but I think one important reason why we're demonstrating today is that often in Canada and Quebec, we look at the U.S. and we always say it's worse there, and we have homemade racists, neo-Nazis, Islamophobes, and because they're sort of just in Quebec, they're not taken as seriously, right? They're just sort of dismissed. But we need to take them seriously. And an important point that I've been making is that less than 7 months since the Quebec City mosque shooting, where 6 people were murdered, one of the groups that was part of creating the climate of fear and hatred against Muslims was trying to demonstrate. Less than a week after an anti-fascist ally, anti-fascist comrade was killed, murdered in Charlottesville, Heather Heyer. And La Meute's a senior member of La Meute was present at that demonstration, hugging neo-Nazis. They're attempting to demonstrate. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen.
And what kind of tactics do you think are actually effective in combating this type of stuff?
What we're doing right now, that's one of the tactics. I mean, it's no secret what tactics are effective. Popular education, exposing the racists, making racists afraid again, and standing our ground on the streets and engaging in direct action. It's all important. And we're here for a few hours to do what we need to do here. But believe me, people who are here, whether they're masked or unmasked, are doing other things as well, against racism and other things to make this world a more just, liberatory place.
And what about the situation with the far right in Canada and Quebec, specifically the far right? What's the situation like that?
They are a mirror image of the far right elsewhere. I think the far right is more ingrained in places like Europe, and in the U.S. you have a U.S. president that uses all the code words of the far right. But that shouldn't make us complacent. That should make us ready to confront this at whatever stage they're at. You don't wait for it to be that bad.
And one more question. What do you think about, like, let's say the average citizen who's not really political, if they have a fear of, like, so let's say Islamist attacks, what do you say to them?
There's a whole toxic environment created that creates false fear and exaggerates the fears. Of course, there are attacks that are claimed in the name of different groups of people. But when it happens to be certain groups of people, like Muslims or people of color, it's exaggerated as somehow something inherent to their community. There are neo-Nazis that have murdered and killed people. I mean, the attack we've seen in Quebec City was of a person who murdered Muslims, seemingly connected to far-right groups. So that's what we should be worried about. You don't fight terrorism of any kind, like real terrorism of any kind, by blaming entire communities.
Jaggy and others on the left are strongly concerned with the atmosphere of fear that is created by anti-Islam and anti-immigration groups. It was in this very city that a massacre of 6 Muslim worshippers took place. You can understand why people so vehemently oppose the rhetoric of groups like La Meute. In their view, it can lead to real violence against minorities, and in some horrific cases it does. This is why they protest so ferociously. Unfortunately, this ferocity has the potential to be misdirected. Whether it's a result of casting too wide a net when attempting to pinpoint fascists, or whether it's just the result of masked individuals succumbing to mob mentality. There are moments during the fervor that can and do lead to violence against innocent people who are perceived as right-wing or, quote, fascists. Here is one such incident. I followed as masked protesters chased down a man from at least a block away because he and his companions were carrying a Quebec flag and a Patriots flag. Indeed, those men likely held right-wing, nationalist opinions. But Antifa and Black Bloc chased them down, saying that they were fascists. They began launching glass bottles and other projectiles at them. One person even threw a brick, although he missed. Here is the full confrontation. What the fuck, bro? Dude, guys. Tell cameraman, fucking call 911, bro.
Quelqu'un peut appeler le 911? Faut l'asseoir. Doucement, faut l'asseoir. Il y a une commotion, c'est vrai. Une commotion. Soyez-le. Pas le temps, tabarnak, les câlisses, man! Moi ici, mais pas le temps, boum!
Reculez! C'est appelé, ok? J'ai des amis touchés, des amis à rater.
Faut que se passe, s'il vous plaît.
Hey, les photographes, reculez! C'est les classes, s'il vous plaît!
Sorry, but did you see what they just fucking did to that guy? And you don't give a shit? They fucking fucked him up. They threw bricks at him, man. What the fuck? He's holding a Quebec flag, dude.
C'est clair! Ben, on veut juste que tu crisses ton Appelle pas ça un accident, au moins, s'il te plaît.
C'est un accident, madame.
That was not an accident, I'm sorry.
Appelle pas ça un accident, come on.
C'est pas un accident, bro.
Appelle pas ça un accident, come on. On va juste...
Yeah, you're a good guy, but your guys are fucking almost killing this guy, man. I saw everything. And you're okay with this, man?
What's that?
He's holding a Quebec flag. They almost kill him.
So?
What do you mean so? He was holding a Quebec flag, bro. You don't even know if he was with La Meute. Wait, what is this flag? I don't even know what this is. What is it? What is it?
Flag of Patriot. Well, the thing is that we can heal them afterwards, like in two factors. You know what I mean?
He was like delirious, man. He got fucked up for holding a flag. That's it.
Yeah, but you gotta understand like the Antifa side also. Like,
I mean, I understand opposing fascism, but like,
it's a full day, like, so, but people are doing amalgams, like, between different degrees of fascism. This is not a fascism. The thing is, I understand the move, but our devoir is to heal the guy back up ourselves. The medic Antifa is there, is doing that.
I guess. Can you give me your name? Any chance?
Julien.
Julien quoi?
Nado.
Super. Can you spell it?
Well, you can document everything on Facebook. You can message me there.
All right.
Document everything.
Yeah.
Ton ami, fais-le soigner. Je suis bien content que tu sois bien soigné. Et après ça, sacrez votre cas de Québec. On est tannés. C'est pas vrai qu'on est à chaque
The man was beaten into absolute delirium simply for holding a Patriots flag. To be clear, there were many left-wing protesters in the area that strongly decried the violence and helped him to recover. The medics themselves were members of the demonstration. However, clearly there are some within this group who engage in dehumanization of right-wingers to the point where they justify such harsh violence by saying that he was a Nazi, without any true evidence of that. This is where the true danger comes in. When relatively average right-wingers are tarred as fascists, they become targets of extreme violence. It is clear that there were some violent elements within the counter-demonstration, but a Quebec Antifa and Anti-Pegida Facebook group posted a status claiming that there was, quote, nothing intimidating or violent, and that the activists and civilians were in favor of peace. Now, I'm sure that there were many individuals within the counter-protest who were indeed opposed to violence, but clearly there are also some who are not. There are some who appear to actively seek it. That beatdown was the most extreme case of violence and intimidation, but there are many other such cases. Here is another example. This man claims to have been a civilian protesting against racism, so on the side of the anti-fascists. But he was beaten anyways because he decided to call the cops on protesters who were doing graffiti.
Ok, va-t'en, t'as dit 3 fois ta haine, tu décalistes. Ah oui!
Le sensationnalisme, là, ça va, là.
Ah ouais, bouge! Ça prouve juste que tu cherches la marche!
Non, non,
Laisse-moi là, les gars, il y a peut-être un problème dans la tête. Essaye d'aider, laisse-moi dans une chance. Non, tu vois, t'as fait la moitié du chemin, là, décaliste.
En plus, moi, tu prends des autres.
Yes, I do.
So what? Can you tell me what happened?
Well, I came here to speak against racism, and well, there was some group who wanted to speak louder than me, let's say, and they were spray painting on the wall. So I pointed it to the police. I said there were some people there who were spray painting on the wall, and well, they didn't like that, so they decided that I had to go.
So you were actually part of the anti-racist protest?
Yes, of course. I'm not a racist.
So how does that have you feeling?
I'm married, not an immigrant, but the daughter of an immigrant. I'm not racist.
So where did you come from? How did you get into this part of the demonstration?
What do you mean? I came.
You come from across the police line?
No. I came with them.
You came with the other group here?
Yeah, I was with the group who came here.
There was also violence and intimidation against the media. Here are a few examples of that.
Fake news, Journal de Québec, fake.
12.
OK. Bon, ben, merci.
Travaille pour Pire Cartel d'eau. Fucking scum.
So what did you see exactly?
Yeah, so I guess it was on the stairs. I think it's called the Capitol building. I don't know what it is exactly. But I saw the global cameraman basically chasing after some Black Bloc people and yelling at them. And his camera wasn't on him. It was usually like on his shoulder, and he gets really in people's faces a lot. And it wasn't there anymore. So from what I could tell, it was knocked out from his shoulder and fell on the ground somehow. And I don't know how much it's damaged, but they were yelling at each other, and yeah, basically that was it.
C'est toi qui es poussé?
Ouais, la caméra est finie.
So what happened here?
Bon, les jump, bon sauter dessus en arrière, mais ça c'est correct, ça fait partie de la game.
Alors
C'est
il
pour ça qu'ils sont
est
masqués.
violente à toi?
C'est pour ça qu'ils sont masqués.
Pas du tout. Non, non, c'est ça la liberté de presse, c'est que ça soit pour tout le monde.
Il attaque jamais de face.
Qu'est-ce que tu penses de la violence contre la presse?
Ben, je sais pas, il ne représente pas la majorité de la population.
Il ne représente pas la majorité des manifestants.
Des manifestants, il ne représente pas du tout la majorité.
What do you think about violence against the press? On record, if you don't mind.
Well, given that I'm one of the members of the press, it really sucks. But the real problem is they don't get their message out right. They get the wrong message. No journalist here is taking a side. They're just going to record what happens, left or right. It's just everything. To us, it's history. So to take it out on the guy who's going to tell the story later, it's a huge mistake. It is very short-sighted. Usually caused because a little anger is pushing in the wrong way.
On top of these concrete examples, there are multiple moments where people who were perceived as right-wing or sympathetic to La Meute were hounded by masked anti-fascists to chants of Alerta, Alerta, Anti-Fascista. This is not to mention that La Meute was barricaded inside a parking lot for the majority of the day, unable to leave due to the threat of violence. We are entering a world now of ever-increasing political polarization. There are average, non-violent citizens on both the left and on the right, who both have their own concerns about the way the world runs. But as events like Charlottesville and Quebec City demonstrate, there are also violent elements on both sides of the divide that are leading society down a very dangerous path. Political violence is a truly sickening thing to behold. It has been tried before countless times in the past, and it only ever leads to pain and misery. In my view, it is time to start decrying violence on all sides of the political spectrum. This is the only way to move forward productively. Otherwise, I fear we will descend ever further down the path of conflict, and then we will all be sorry.